Good evening. We begin tonight with breaking news out of the town of Shenango. A New York State trooper is dead after a hit and run on Interstate 81. As details continue to come in about a devastating fire last night in northern Shenango County. Some residents of the small town are left with an emptiness over a landmark that's still smoldering this evening. County Executive Debbie Preston is a pawn for gas interests, hiding their identity behind newly created corporate fronts. That's the charge from a local group of Democrats and environmental activists called the Vestal Residents for Safe Energy. But is there any truth to it? As we said at the top of the broadcast, two long-awaited decisions emanating from Albany today. Two decisions from the state capitol that have major impact in the southern tier. We begin tonight with breaking news. The Broome County Sheriff's Office is investigating a homicide out of the town of Maine. For the past year, the focus of the drug fight between the Delaware County Sheriff's Office and the increasing population of drug dealers has narrowed.
Today was a shift change of sorts for crews from the southern tier. Earlier this afternoon, Conklin and Union Center, they took off, headed back for the Binghamton area. That left room for crews from Coconut Center and also crews from Prospect Terrace, who we follow tonight.
What Scott Kramer doesn't remember about June 30th is likely the reason that he's able to sleep at night. It's the opposite for his mother, Ruth, whose vivid recollection of that summer Friday likely keeps her awake, and her caring arms around her son perhaps a little tighter these days. With us here in the studio is Jim Testani, chairman of the Broome County Democratic Party. Two Vestal police officers used excessive force when they shot a suspected robber 5 times in 2011. That's according to a federal lawsuit filed late last month by the victim.
Haley, good morning. What was very, very heavy police presence about an hour or so ago when we arrived has calmed considerably.
Merry Christmas.
Same to you, buddy.
How long were we going to go before we mentioned that?
I don't know. I wish I could show you the back though. It's got.
You can.
It's got. I don't know.
Why not?
Can we see
there
it?
you go.
I don't know if we can see that. Yeah, it's got an elf and a.
That is absolutely hideous.
It is.
I mean, I get the idea. And the best part about this is he has a matching one, and one that we were talking about last night, possibly that I was going to wear.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have fit, but you did make these
We
by
did.
yourself.
Spent about 3-4 hours. My wife and I made these a couple years back for an ugly sweater wine tour, and well, there you have it. It's about as ugly.
Good to know also that alcohol is involved.
No. We didn't make them on the wine tour. We made them for the wine tour.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Thanks for clarifying.
You'd think, though, looking like this, that there was some wine involved.
They're meaty, they're juicy. The barbecue sauce, perfect. Just the right amount of sort of sweet smokiness. Really, really good ribs.
I'm nervous about this.
Do we cheers? I think we're psyching ourselves out.
Do you? Because I'm not good with this stuff.
Those things are just flat out hot.
My cheeks are tingling all the way up to my ears. My nose is running. My eyes are watering. This was a great idea.
Yeah,
you can't concentrate on anything else. And it hurts when you breathe. Mr. Miyagi, you were not with those. Could you imagine you catching a fly? That wasn't bad. That was completely backwards, but not bad. You really get that meaty taste, and then all the other fresh ingredients.
Grab that smoky flavor right off the grill.
Yeah.
Exactly, Candace. We began seeing a rise in drug crimes in Delaware County during the past year. As it turns out, our investigation was warranted, as the Sheriff's Office, the state police, and smaller departments have been struggling to gain control of a growing problem. What we found is they're making progress, bit by bit, one dealer at a time, but it's a moving target. And we also want to warn our viewers that some of the images they're about to see could be considered disturbing. Delaware County has a drug problem. A gritty, oftentimes dangerous undercurrent running through quiet towns and serene countryside. And it's costing resources and constant attention of law enforcement, who teeter daily on winning and losing the battle.
We're doing everything that we can do. We're working night and day. It's a prolific problem. It's something like we haven't seen. You know, I'm a fourth-generation Delaware County resident. I've never seen problems such as these.
The drug of choice is prescription, like the lucrative OxyContin or oxycodone, or an addiction rooted in it, like the cheaply made and cheaply sold heroin. What began as occasional small-time crime for mostly small-town cops and deputies has grown into a daily drug-fed routine for a law enforcement community that's been forced to grow increasingly sophisticated.
and the results are staggering.
Get out of the car! Get out of the car! Right now! Get out of your car! Put your hands up! Get out! Get out! Get out! Where'd you go? Get out of the car!
I think in the last 15 years that I've been sheriff, about every year our crime numbers or statistics, of course, we live by them, are constantly going up. This year was rather significant.
The sheriff's office arrested 4 people dealing prescription drugs between 2009 and 2011. They arrested 5 times that in just 11 months last year. Just 1 person was arrested for selling and possessing cocaine between 2009 and 2011. 2 people were arrested for the same offenses in just 2 weeks in December.
It just seems to be nonstop. It just seems like it gets busier and busier every year. You know, as far as call volume goes, it just seems like the numbers are you know, climbing. They're definitely not decreasing.
Beyond opportunity, though, Delaware County is desolate and easily accessible, providing natural cover required for undisturbed operation.
It's coming from all over the state. You know, we have drugs coming, running up from New York City to Albany, then back to Syracuse, and into Delaware County from that region, up and down the interstate corridors and such.
Do you have enough when it comes to men and women on the street to combat a problem that has grown like you've seen it grow over the past year?
No.
In the past year, hundreds of bags of heroin have been sold to undercover deputies from the pockets of pushers. Pills, powder, cocaine, all leading to the largest drug bust in Delaware County history.
To totally eradicate this problem, it would take a small army, and the taxpayer can't afford a small army.
Now, one note on that story, the identities of the suspects in those videos are being concealed because their criminal cases are still pending. Now, coming up tomorrow, we dig deeper into the arrest of the man that you just saw, Jason Wilsey, who investigators say was supplying powerful drugs to one of the largest drug rings in recent history in the Southern Tier and in Central New York. Again, that's coming up Wednesday on Action News at 6. For the past year, the focus of the drug fight between the Delaware County Sheriff's Office and the increasing population of drug dealers has narrowed. Late last year, a lengthy investigation led to one of the biggest busts in county history. Here's part 2 in my series on a battle in Delaware that's far from over. Jason Wilsey is unsuspecting. At 5'6", he's described on his arrest report as small. But authorities say he was the linchpin in a nearly 3-year drug operation whose web had a reach far beyond the borders of Delaware County and led to the conviction and potential life sentence of one of the biggest drug dealers in Central New York.
Within the past year, you know, there's been significant problems, and it really came to the point where something had to be done. And some of those products led us to believe that it was coming from a local source.
The Delaware County Sheriff says the 33-year-old Wilsey stole his product from drug manufacturer Covidian in Hobart. Wilsey worked the night shift in the blending department where he had access to pure oxycodone powder. It's the purest form of a mind-altering painkiller that's reportedly stronger than heroin. In 2010, the Delaware County Sheriff's Office noticed the sale of pharmaceutical oxycodone powder ramping up there and surrounding counties. Authorities say Wilsey's scheme required persistence, bilking the drug manufacturer out of costly oxy powder bit by bit, and then selling it to his half-brother Robert, a convicted sex offender and admitted drug dealer.
The drug dealers that set up shop here in rural Delaware County are very careful in particular in who they sell their drugs to. So it's difficult to infiltrate those circles.
Then on December 21st, a break in the case.
I started looking on the rocks, and as soon as I found that bag, I knew we had it, you know, and that was crucial.
Hidden behind a home's wall, 5 ounces of pure oxycodone powder, street value $50,000.
I'm sure the other investigators and the administration and the DEA and everybody else felt the same way.
The rest was up to Robert Wilsey, who the sheriff's office said rolled on his brother, providing enough information for an indictment.
At this point, I think because of the proactivity of this agency itself and how hard we're you know, trying to tackle the problem is paying off, and people are seeing it, and the public's seeing it, and you know, I think that's extremely important.
Meanwhile, Jason Wilsey posted $100,000 bail and remains home in Davenport, awaiting trial.
Our goal is to make the community safer. That's what we're paid to do by the taxpayer, and yeah, naturally, it's gratifying when we're able to accomplish that mission. But it is frustrating when we know that we haven't entirely eradicated the problem.
Now, the sheriff's office says Wilsey's drugs led to the conviction of Dante Major, who's been labeled a major drug trafficker. Major will spend the next 55 years in state prison, but could be in prison for the rest of his life. Meanwhile, proceedings in the Wilsey case are inching along. His next appearance following last month's arraignment has not yet been scheduled. Sometimes public officials, the people you elect into office, choose not to speak, even about topics that affect their constituents. Turns out there's plenty to be said in the borough of Montrose. Not in public, though, but in a string of emails among its council. Ugly words about a simple issue that seemingly divided the small town. Now, Montrose council members refuse to speak publicly, but the conversations they have with each other speak volumes. It began here with an unexpected walkout of a meeting, and tensions mounted to this.
You pushing me? No.
A local reporter shoved in the parking lot, all because of this, a 2.5-foot tall water spigot along a quiet street in the borough of Montrose. It's a private water source owned and paid for by Craig Stevens, who is not from the borough but a neighboring township. That fact has riled members of the borough council, who have grown frustrated privately because Stevens is taking the water 6.5 miles away and providing it to residents in Dimmick Township, who have long claimed a water supply that's been tainted by natural gas drilling. But the donations, according to Stevens, haven't come easy.
It took one day after it was put in for my driver to start getting verbally harassed. I was here on the second day it was in, being verbally harassed. The third day there was people parking in front of it to block it.
Council members have declined repeatedly to discuss the situation during public meetings or over the phone.
I don't make comments to news reporters. Why is that?
Most didn't return repeated calls, but an Action News investigation found they've said plenty during virtual conversations with one another. In a lengthy response from Councilman and attorney Sean Granahan to the newly elected Julianne Skinner, Granahan refers to Stevens and others' actions as thuggery and even devilry. He calls them the Dimmick hooligans, and one woman specifically a clown. He says Stevens is pirating Montrose water, and he goes on to say that he would have had members of the council audience arrested just for showing up. He says the borough's attorney, Marianne O'Malley, is looking to restricting access to public meetings and making them unpalatable to attend, to which the borough's attorney says it's too bad that state open meetings laws allow for the use of recording devices. For now, the deliveries from Montrose to Dimmick continue, but whether the issue becomes a long-term problem is anyone's guess.
This isn't World War III. This is not Armageddon. This is not the last bit of water in the world. You know, we're delivering water to people that don't have water. I mean, what their problem is, I don't know. I don't turn my back. I watch everything around me at all times. I will not turn my back, because you just don't know what's going on. You don't know what they're going to do.
Now, I contacted each member of the Montrose Borough Council, and once again, none of them had any comment on the emails or the language they contained. The story doesn't end there, though. A right-to-know request for a broader picture of council communications is in the works. We'll bring you that story when the council makes those public records available. Erica, today was a shift change of sorts for crews from the Southern Tier. Earlier this afternoon, Conklin and Union Center, they took off, headed back for the Binghamton area. That left room for crews from Coconut Center and also crews from Prospect Terrace, who we follow tonight. Members of the Prospect Terrace Volunteer Fire Department didn't know exactly what to expect as they made their way south toward the remnants of one of the worst natural disasters in history, to join thousands of emergency responders, including dozens from several departments in Broome and Delaware counties, further and further down debris-lined streets.
It was definitely incredible. I mean, it reminds us a lot of what happened back home, obviously. But you know, you see it on TV and you can watch it on TV, but when you see it in person and you see the lines at the gas stations and all of that, the feeling in the cab as we were driving into the island was definitely shock.
Members from Conklin and Union Center were headed home, having fulfilled their 72-hour volunteer duty. That left room for other crews like Prospect Terrace, who will fill 72 hours in a similar fashion.
Luckily in the fire service, with the camaraderie of the guys, no matter where they're from, there's never a dull moment.
How was the incident that we had just now?
Oh, it wasn't that bad.
Talking, laughing, waiting, all in between occasional emergency runs. Like those who came and left before them this week, the Prospect Terrace crew will be expected to perform the same duties they do in familiar Broome County, except they'll do it in a foreign city, in complete darkness and surrounded by utter destruction.
You're comfortable in your own land, and when you get out of that element, it's a lot different. The perspective is different. You're not familiar with the area.
It's tough in the daytime and a lot tougher in the dark.
But there's no pity here. Instead, only gratitude.
All the guys in the department were excited to come down and lend a hand, give back a little bit for the help we received back in September. And it's a tremendous opportunity as firefighters at home to come down here and give these people down here a little bit more comfort. We know what it was like back home, so it was a pretty easy decision to make.
Now, Erica, it certainly was a lot of hurry up and waiting over the past couple of days, both for the fire crews and also for us, but that is the nature of the fire services. Also, one more thing, I talked for the past couple of days about just how welcoming the crews here have been to the crews of the Southern Tier. They have been just as welcoming for us, and that is something that we want to extend a sincere thank you to everyone who we've interacted with. Heading home tomorrow, but for now, reporting live from Long Beach, Dave Greber, WBNG TV, Action News.